During this hearing, the virtue of courage was used to describe the current president, and I think that's misplaced. I think the virtue of courage should be attributed to the 2,461 troops that we lost, that gave everything, the 20,698 that were maimed and injured and wounded, and the 800,000 that served. I'm a little perplexed, and thank you for being here. I wanted to clear something up. During the testimony, General McKenzie, you were asked when you knew that the drone strike on August 29th had gone tragically wrong, and if, correct me, just yes or no, you said about 5 or 6 hours later you learned that. Is that correct?
That's when we learned that civilians had been killed.
Okay, and so it went wrong.
No, I did not say that.
Okay.
I said that's when we learned that civilians had been killed. We still
Would you
didn't know
have
if we had
considered that 5 or 6 hours later a righteous strike?
We took that strike based on the belief that the vehicle was going to be used in an attack against us.
So we knew that people that should have been killed were killed 5 or 6 hours after, yes?
We knew that that probably people that were not involved in an attack.
All right, thank you.
Took us a little longer to learn the rest of the story.
Agreed. Secretary Austin, same. You learned about 5 or 6 hours after that people that should have been killed were killed.
Well, I learned from General McKenzie's reporting that there was collateral damage.
Okay,
And
thank you.
whenever that happens, we investigate.
Okay. And then General Milley, on September 1st, 3 days later, you described it as a righteous strike. People that were not supposed to be killed were killed, and you described it as a righteous strike.
Yeah, if you go back and look at the full quote, what I said was we followed the procedures. I had every reason to believe that that we followed our procedures at that point in time. We knew that there were civilians killed. We knew there were non-combatants, and there was collateral damage.
Yes, you said were others killed? Yes.
Yes.
Who were they? We don't know. We're trying to sort through all
exactly
that.
right.
But
That's
it's
exactly
a righteous
what I said,
strike.
and that's right. And
So
because I believed,
Kill people we shouldn't have. But it was a righteous strike.
I believe that the target that we were aiming
And I,
at.
sir, and I apologize.
believe the target
Thank
we were
you.
aiming
Thank
at was
Okay,
hit.
I have
That's
3 more minutes. Thank you. Now, General Milley, you served under both President Trump and Biden.
correct.
Okay. I've spoken with former Secretary of State Pompeo, had a very extensive conversation with former National Director of Intelligence, John Ratcliffe. And what was the general sentiment of senior advisors? If conditions weren't met, what would happen in Afghanistan? How long the Afghan army and government would last? You recall that? I would imagine you were sitting in on those meetings.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. If conditions are not met,
The conditions aren't met and we withdraw, how long is the Afghan government going to last? Back then.
I'm not going to speak for them. I'll speak for myself.
But yeah, please do, because
Yeah.
I know they told me.
I'm on record having said that if we go to zero, that there's a high probability of the government and the Afghan army collapsing. In terms of time, I put that at between 1 and 3 years at the time I wrote this stuff back in a year ago in the fall of 2020.
So that's interesting that you say that, because when I talked to both Mr. Pompeo and Mr. Ratcliffe,
Yeah.
they told me that there was unanimity. Even President Trump said if conditions are not met, that the Afghan army and government would collapse within weeks, and the longest they heard maybe a month or 2 is what they gave me. Because I was just surprised that, because Secretary Austin said in his remarks today that the fact that the Afghan army, we and our partners trained, simply melted away in many cases was a shock. John Ratcliffe told me he told his successor that they were going to collapse instantaneously if those conditions weren't met. They were going to evaporate. And now we're
I don't know
hearing that
what
it was a surprise.
Mr.
What I think, General Milley, with all due respect,
Sure.
what I think it was not a failure of intelligence. It seems to me, I didn't know this stuff. I'm asking. I wasn't in the room. You were. That it was a failure to heed that intelligence and act accordingly.
I can show you the intelligence reports that were produced under Mr. Ratcliffe.
Thank you,
all
and
the
I
way
appreciate
through the
that.
current
I have
time.
50 seconds left, so I appreciate
Sure.
that. Thank you. All right, so we got 5,000 bad guys in Bagram and jail at Bagram, right? Am I right, General McKenzie? And then we go down to 650. We can't hold it, so we split. But around July 1st, I think we left.
12th.
July 12th, and it fell August 15th, correct? And they got out then?
16th.
Right around.
August 16th, and then we have an attack on our troops a couple weeks later. Can any of you guarantee the American people that of those 5,000 bad guy scumbags, none of them were directly responsible for killing our troops?
No, I
I
cannot.
cannot guarantee that, no.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.
Thank you. Mr.